Zedric, seated to my left. Lance graduated with an undergraduate degree from Monmouth College and a Master of Arts in History from Western Illinois University. While at Monmouth College, Lance competed on both the football and track and field teams, where his exploits led to his induction into the Monmouth College Sports Hall of Fame in 2014. After completing his undergraduate degree, Lance enlisted as an intelligence analyst in the United States Army, serving 4 years and participating in Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. Lance is a noted military historian and author. He has served as the official historian of the Alamo Scouts Historical Foundation since 2003. He has authored at least 10 books. You got 10? 11? Okay, I'm short one, so at least. Some of the titles include, and the one I know most about is Silent Warriors of World War II, the Alamo Scouts Behind Japanese Lines. Another title, Elite Warriors, 300 Years of America's Best Fighting Troops. Some other favorites, Losers, Users, and Parasites, a guide to ridding your life of unwanted people, and The Last Rubicon. When he's not writing, Lance is a teacher's therapist at the Children's Home in Peoria, where he's been since 1997. On a personal note, Lance and I first met in graduate school at Western Illinois University after Desert Storm. There, he took me, a younger graduate student, under his wings, and he had significant influence on me as a student, historian, and more importantly, as a person. With that said, I can't say thank you enough, Lance, for addressing us today on this National Purple Heart Day. Lance?
Bear with me, my original issue isn't working so well. Okay, thank you, Dan, for that kind introduction, and thanks to IDVA Director Terry Prince, State Commander Joe Shaler, Commander Kim Footen, and everyone at VFW Post 4763, MOH recipient and fellow Peorian Hal Fritz, and most of all, veterans and their families. I'm humbled and honored to be able to speak with you on National Purple Heart Day, the 240th anniversary of President George Washington's creation of the Badge of Military Merit, the progenitor of the Purple Heart Medal, which bears his likeness, and is also the 90th anniversary of the official creation of the Purple Heart itself. Both anniversaries give us cause to reflect and on the history of the medal, but more important, to reflect on the service of those who it honors. Before I begin, I'd like to tell a little story about Dan Wellman, RMC. We first met in graduate school 30 years ago this month, by the way, in August 1992. I just ETS from the Army and come straight from Fort Bragg, and Dan was an enlisted man with the National Guard. He was wearing an Army t-shirt sitting in the back of the room of Dr. Burton's history class, Liberalism and Its Challengers, the name which rankled Dan given his political views. So I joined him and we became fast friends. Several years later, Dan was commissioned and called to active duty in Iraq. Sometime in late 2004, after Lieutenant Dan contacted me out of the blue and said, "How have you been?" And I asked him, he chuckled, "I got the medal nobody wants." Being a veteran, I knew what he meant. And given where we are and for which occasion we are assembled here today, I'm confident that most of you also know which medal Dan was referring to. And I believe that the over 1.8 million recipients of the Purple Heart throughout our history and their families would have preferred any other medal as well. But here we are, so let's make the best of it. Over 2 millennia ago, the great Roman philosopher Marcus Tullius Cicero wrote that brevity is the best recommendation of speech, whether in a senator or an orator. And since I'm not a senator, I'll do my best to follow his sage advice and honor the will of the people. Throughout recorded history, many societies have honored their soldiers and recognized the sacrifices they made and the wounds they suffered. Cicero's Rome was one such place. The citizens and the leadership of Rome were keenly aware of the physical and emotional toll that war had upon its soldiers, and the symbolic and tangible importance that military badges, decorations, rituals, and observances played in honoring them. Soldiers returning from long and brutal campaigns in distant lands were often welcomed home with lavish parades and marched in triumphant procession to the cheers of adoring citizens. Not always the case here. Legions of troops were led by signifers or standard bearers carrying a signum or a standard identifying their unit. The men proudly followed in battle uniforms, their breastplates adorned with phalara, small ornamental discs made of gold, silver, bronze, or glass. These tiny emblems recognized bravery and in some cases wounds received in battle. Others might wear an armilla or a silver wristband awarded for valor, or a torque, a braided wire mesh sort of emblem on the upper arm or around the neck. History and literature are also rife with examples of respect being bestowed upon those wounded in battle. In the famous St. Crispin's Day speech appearing in Henry V, penned in 1599 by William Shakespeare, he wrote, "This day is called the Feast of St. Crispin's. He that outlives this day and comes home safe will stand a tiptoe when this day is named. He that shall live this day and see old age shall yearly upon this vigil feast his neighbors. Then he will strip his sleeve and show his scars. These wounds I had on St. Crispin's Day. Old men forget and all shall be forgotten. But he'll remember with advantages what deeds he did this day. Then our names shall be familiar in the mouth as household words be in their flowing cups, freshly remembered. This story shall the good man teach his son. And St. Crispin shall never go by from this day to the ending of the world. But we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he who sheds his blood with me shall be my brother." For all Purple Heart recipients, today is your St. Crispin's Day, a time to hoist your cups and freshly remember your noble service and that of your brothers and sisters, present and past, living and gone. While it's important that citizens might know the history and the symbolism of its nation's military decorations, such as the Purple Heart and others, it is more necessary for them to share in the responsibility of caring for its warriors long after the battle. History teaches us these lessons and more. For unknown centuries, Native Americans held ceremonies to honor those who suffered the horrors and injuries of battle. The Navajo Enemy Way ceremony, a complex ritual that helped exorcise the haunting spirits of the enemy, and the squaw dance, a ceremony that included family and friends, helped welcome braves home to heal and return to a state of balance in the universe. Other ceremonies included the peyote ceremony, where braves and elders sat in a circle and passed around an eagle feather, today known as a talking piece, allowing each person to speak uninterrupted about their experiences and to expel bad spirits. Timeless and ancient wisdom worth revisiting. George Washington's prophetic words, "A nation is judged by how well it treats its veterans," have reverberated for over 240 years through 5 declared wars and numerous military campaigns, and are as significant today as they were during his time. Abraham Lincoln, himself a veteran of the Black Hawk War, also recognized the importance of taking care of veterans. In his second inaugural address, issued in March 1865, after almost 4 long years of civil war, he laid out what we must do. With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and for his orphan. 3 weeks later, Lincoln personally visited some 6,000 wounded soldiers, Confederate and Union, at a 200-acre field hospital near City Point, Virginia. And though he died less than 3 weeks after that visit, his reverence for veterans and sympathy for the wounded transcended his death, and decades later was manifested in real efforts to care for those who had borne the battle and to ameliorate their condition. In 1932, upon the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington, and 15 years after American doughboys of the Great War stepped foot on the battlefields of France and suffered horrible wounds caused by the devastating modern weapons, including 116,000 killed and 200,000 wounded, the Purple Heart was created. 9 years later, American servicemen and servicewomen embroiled in World War II suffered over 1 million killed and wounded. The Korean War witnessed 34,000 killed and over 103,000 wounded, while our battle deaths in Vietnam surpassed 58,000, and those wounded in action over 150,000. More recently, battle deaths to include those incurred in Iraq, Bosnia, Afghanistan, and elsewhere total over 7,000 killed and almost 35,000 wounded. All told, over 1.8 million Purple Heart medals weighing over 100 tons have been awarded through our history. That's a lot of medals. Far too many. While recognizing service and heroism with decorations and observances is important, providing wounded veterans with long-term medical care and compassionate support is vital. But how do we do, as a society, acknowledge, treat, and validate the wounds that leave no scars? Wounds that do not warrant the Purple Heart and all that it brings, but whose effects can be as traumatic. During World War I, the term for what we know as PTSD was called shell shock. In the next war, it was known as combat or battle fatigue. In both conflicts, it is estimated that between 11 and 20% of veterans suffer PTSD, as it does for veterans of the Gulf War and every conflict thereafter. In Vietnam, about 15% of veterans suffered from PTSD, with some figures as high as 30%. So what can we do to help heal the trauma? How do we indemnify or make whole the body and the mind? How do we replace the blood spilled, bodies torn, minds fractured, hearts broken, and lives lost? What we do after awarding the medal is assuredly more important than the medal itself. But how do we do it? Difficult questions with no easy answers. But we can do something. Let us continue to be true to Lincoln's challenge, to care for him or her who have borne the battle, whether that meant or means assisting the families of the fallen, providing care for those who still endure the scars of the past, caring for those who suffer from service-related trauma, or by simply gathering and extending a hand like we are doing here today and saying, thank you for your service. In closing, Cicero again reminds us, poor is the nation that has no heroes, but poorer still is the nation that has heroes and who fails to remember and honor them. We must ensure that will never happen. Thank you.